This is Proverbs for life. The beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom.
Get wisdom. If anyone loudly blesses their neighbor in the morning, it will be taken as a curse.
Allow no sleep to your eyes, no slumber to your eyelids.
Better to live on a corner of the roof than share a house with a quarrelsome wife.
Please help me.
A gold ring on a pig's nose is a gorgeous woman with no sense.
A proverb quoted by fools is as limp as a wet noodle.
Go to the ant, you sluggard. This is Proverbs for life.
Well, we're going to get to Proverbs in just a minute, but we have just wrapped up graduation season. A whole new batch of high school and college graduates are now out in the world pursuing their dreams. I love the passion of people in that season of life. They've worked so hard, and now they're ready to take steps that will define and shape their futures. I don't know about you, I remember standing in my childhood bedroom right before I was going to my high school graduation. Remember being in the halls of the gym right before my college graduation. Remember being in the choir room of a church right before my seminary graduation. Specifically, I remember just ignoring the conversation I was in with two other graduates, my husband and our senior pastor, Brian Hughes, who was getting his doctorate that day. I don't know what they were talking about. I just remember bending over and grabbing onto a piano to get me through a contraction. Because I showed up at graduation knowing I would go into active labor any second. I had my son the next day, and he is one of the new graduates embarking on the world this year. He just finished up his time in high school, and within him, I see all the passion of that stage of life. He cares deeply about his faith. He has strong convictions of right and wrong. He wants the world to be better. And it is not uncommon for him to get all hyped up about an injustice that he wants to fix. And he gets loud and passionate about the wrongs he wants to right in the world and in the church. And that's what he's supposed to be like at this life stage. And when I hear him and I watch him, I remember his dad at that age, full of idealistic dreams of what could be. Now, I wasn't as loud as them, I don't think, but I remember being a bit like that. Do you? Do you remember when raw passion fueled you to want to go out in the world and do something and be something? Now, of course, there is usually a gap between the dream and the realization of it. Like those who are passionate about serving in the military, they don't enlist one day and ship out to war the next. Thank goodness for that. And those who are passionate about pursuing a trade don't sign with a company one day and install an HVAC unit in your house the next. Thank goodness for that. Those who are passionate about justice don't sign up one day and start patrolling the streets the next. Thank goodness for that. Those who are passionate about saving lives don't put on a stethoscope one day and operate on you the next. And thank goodness for that. Or we could go on and on with career and education options. But between the dream and the realization of it, there's boot camp and apprenticeships, the academy, med school. That's the idea behind the words of wisdom we're looking at today. In the Bible, there are different kinds of writings. One type is what we call wisdom literature. But even within that, there's different kinds of writing, like poetry, like we see in the book of Psalms. Then there's the book of Proverbs, which is a compilation of proverbs, which are just short, wise sayings. And for the most part, they stand on their own. You don't have to do a lot of reading before them and after them to figure out what they mean. So if you're new to reading the Bible, Proverbs could be a good place to start. And they are not meant to be applied to every situation unilaterally. They are statements about what is generally true most of the time. Like today's proverb from chapter 19, verse 2. Enthusiasm without knowledge is no good. Haste makes mistakes. Having all the enthusiasm in the world and quickly jumping into action is not enough. You need knowledge to go with it. If you don't slow down long enough to acquire some knowledge, then you will make mistakes. That's what the proverb says, and that resonates, right? Most proverbs do. Most of the time we read them and think, yep, that's how it works, because we've all been there. In our haste to put together furniture, the kind that comes in a box, how many of us have not thoroughly looked at the instructions and gotten the knowledge that we needed, but just started? And then it's a little wobbly when you finish, or something doesn't line up just right. There's pieces left over. We know this proverb is true, but then again, we also love a story of someone who just went after it. They had an idea, no training, no experience, and they willed it into being with pure passion. Yes, those stories exist too. It's kind of the story of how our church began, so we know that can happen. There are exceptions to the rule. The purpose of a proverb is to state something that's true in most situations, most of the time. And most people need to take the time to get a little knowledge before just plowing ahead with pure passion. Often, the mistakes that are made when we don't do that are consequential. So, let's walk through this proverb and unpack its meaning along the way. We'll start with the first word, enthusiasm. We all have some idea of what that word means. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's pause and get some knowledge to go with it. Because if you look up different translations of this verse from its original language of Hebrew to our English, you're going to notice some pretty different words used here. Everything from enthusiasm and desire to soul and person. Well, what is going on here? Those are pretty different words. See, the Hebrew word here is a word that means often soul or spirit. So some translations just use the word soul. And some say a person, because for the ancient Hebrews, a soul was not like a thing that you had within you. It was all-encompassing. Like at the beginning of the Bible, in Genesis, when God creates Adam, this same word is used. It says that God breathed into Adam, and the man became a living being. Okay, living being right here is what's translated enthusiasm in our proverb. So this is like the force of life within the human frame. That's why some translators go with words like desire or enthusiasm, not in the way that means like spunk or longing, but in a way that speaks to what drives you. It's that gut level, spiritual, if you will, soulful passion within you. So when we see enthusiasm without knowledge is no good, it's like we're saying that force within us and throughout us, that heartbeat and passion is no good unless it has knowledge with it. Now that reminds me of my daughter. She recently got her learner's permit. We're doing all the milestones in our family this year. The oldest just graduated and turned 18. Youngest is now driving, turned 16 later this year. And she has within her a strong desire to drive. So strong that months ago, she figured out the first day she was eligible to get her learner's permit, and she made the appointment to take the test. She cannot wait to drive on her own. And her social calendar is so full, her life is so busy, I'm not sure I'm ever going to see her again when she gets that license. But we all know that her passion is not enough, is it? Even some knowledge is not enough. I mean, she had enough information in her brain to pass that learner's permit test. But does she now have enough knowledge to go off and drive alone? No. And we all know that. don't we? Have you ever taught someone how to drive? Yeah, no matter how smart they are, and she's very smart, no matter how much they know, no matter how careful they are, there's some things you just can't learn until you're in it. Like how to handle it when you hydroplane during a summer thunderstorm, or how to react when you look up and there's a driver coming at you in your lane. An online tutorial class is not going to teach you that. You have to get that knowledge with first-hand experience. Without it, all the passion in the world won't make you a good driver. That's why the next word we're looking at in the verse is knowledge. Enthusiasm without knowledge is no good. Or the other way we could say that is that knowledge is what makes enthusiasm good. And the Bible has a lot to say about knowledge. Depending on what translation you use, you'll see the word knowledge anywhere from 85 to 185 times in the Bible. The book of the Bible with the most uses of the word knowledge is this one we're looking at, Proverbs. Now it says that fools hate knowledge. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Choose knowledge rather than choice gold. And the wise store up knowledge. That's just 4 examples of dozens of times that this word shows up in the book of Proverbs alone. See, the Bible upholds the idea that knowledge is good, which I feel like I have to say, because sometimes we Christians perpetuate the idea that knowledge is bad or to be feared, that we should be scared of it because somehow it will ruin our faith. That reminds me of when my husband and I were in seminary working on those master's degrees. A man warned us that seminary was gonna suck the Jesus right out of us. And we told our professors, one of them commiserated and said when he left the countryside of Alabama for seminary long ago, someone told him not to do it because it was gonna change him. Well, I reckon that's the whole point, he responded. See, knowledge does change us, and that is the point. The Bible is a source of knowledge that has near limitless potential to change us. Jesus is the truth, and he does have unlimited power to change us. Knowledge is a good and necessary partner for enthusiasm. It is not an obstacle that we have to overcome. It is not a stop sign that pumps brakes on passion. Rather, knowledge provides guardrails to direct the drive, to shepherd the soul in a way that is good. The reverse, though, is also true, as our scripture says. Enthusiasm without knowledge is no good. That reminds me of a friend of mine. She's very smart, highly intelligent, accomplished career. But one evening years ago, she had a passionate hankering for fried food. And she had a deep fryer and some olive oil. The problem is that she did not have knowledge about the difference between the smoke points of olive oil versus other oils we usually use to fry with, like peanut or canola. And she wanted the fried food immediately, not after a trip to the store to get a different kind of oil. So she poured olive oil into the deep fryer, turned it up, and thankfully walked away before flames leapt from the fryer all the way up to the ceiling. Long story short, she got to replace her little kitchen with the big one she had always wanted. It has a whole wall of windows and a big island and all the latest appliances. Her enthusiasm without knowledge was no good. It caught her kitchen on fire. In her haste, she made a mistake, just like our proverb says. Not knowing what we need to know is a problem. So is being hasty. And that is bad news for us, because we are a culture of haste and hurry, rushing and rash decision making. That's the next part of the proverb we're going to look at. Haste. Haste makes mistakes. We know this to be true in small ways. You know, like when you're rushing out the door, so you spill your coffee and you forget your packed lunch and you can't find your keys. But being hasty can also result in big mistakes that have big consequences for us. We might buy the wrong car because we don't want to do the legwork and the research. And then we end up with an unreliable car that costs way more in repairs than if we just done the research and bought a better one to begin with. But this is not just about money. We might pursue a career path that takes us away from our family more than we'd intended, or doesn't provide for them like we thought it would, but because we just jumped in too quickly and we didn't get all the information that we needed. We might marry someone that we really have no business marrying, rushing it because we're tired of waiting and we have all the enthusiasm in the world that it's going to be great, without taking the time to learn the things we need to learn about him or her. The consequences of that can be devastating for everybody involved: husband, wife, family, kids. But being hasty, it's an even bigger problem than you and me in our lives. The Harvard Business Review published an article last year titled "The Insidious Effects of Hurrying." Sounds a lot like haste makes mistakes to me. And in that article, the author discusses something that cardiologists call hurry sickness. Now, this is not a diagnosis that you can go to the doctor and get, but it can wreak havoc on a person's physical and mental well-being. From stress, lack of sleep, poor eating, from hurrying around, to immune suppression, there is a toll to physical health. Then, when we're running around, there's also bad decision-making at both home and work, which strains relationships in both places. Haste is a problem, and it results in mistakes. That's the last word for us to examine in our proverb today: mistakes. Now, the Hebrew word that gets translated mistakes here is one of several Hebrew words that we sometimes translate as sin. That's why some translations, you'll just see the word sin here instead. Some of you have heard us teach before. It's this Hebrew word for sin that comes from an old archery term that means to miss the mark. This is not the kind of sin that is like intentional, defiant disobedience. This is the kind where you are trying. You are trying to hit the mark. You're trying to do well, but you don't. You miss. Some translations reflect this, saying, "Desire without knowledge is no good. How much more will hasty feet miss the way?" Hasty feet miss the way. It's not bad feet or defiant, insubordinate, mean feet missing the way. It's hasty feet. When we are rushing and moving too fast, we miss the way and we make mistakes. I probably do this every day. There's great irony in the fact that I chose this proverb to teach about. I picked it because I need to hear this as much as anyone else. I'm not proud to admit I've been living in a pretty much constant state of haste for months, and I've been making mistakes. Earlier this month, right here, I did the Mother's Day message, and I mentioned brothers Jacob and Esau from the Bible, and I wrote in my first draft that Esau was his mom's favorite. But that's not right. Jacob is her favorite, and I know that, but I wrote it wrong. When I did my first run-through of that message, Paul Myers was in the room. He's been a great partner in ministry for a decade, and he slowly made his way up here near the platform. Now, Paul is always kind and careful. So he said, "Hey, message is good. Couple things. I think you meant that Jacob was the favorite. Oh, and you started out saying Happy Easter, but I think you meant Happy Mother's Day." I was so embarrassed to hear about the mistakes that I had made. I was so grateful for Paul and his kindness and grace. And before I could say anything, he said, "You're really busy right now." That's what I thought. She's just trying to do too much too fast. He knew what the problem was, and he was right. My hasty fingers had made all sorts of typing errors. My hasty brain, trying to form words and thoughts and pages as fast as possible, had made all sorts of mistakes. I think we caught them all before any harm was done, but that's not always the case, is it? Sometimes hasty feet miss the way in big ways that are catastrophic. Like with a young man named Leonid. Now, Leonid had done a lot of work to gain some knowledge. He graduated from Moscow's version of MIT, where he wrote his graduate thesis on the details of nuclear reactor physics. At just 25 years old, he landed a big job at the Chernobyl Atomic Energy Station. He was the senior reactor operator the night of the explosion. That's the worst nuclear disaster in history. While he had gained knowledge, he'd only been on the job 2 months. He didn't have that hands-on experience kind of knowledge yet. And that night was his first time trying something new to him. And he messed up. He skipped a step. And that led to a series of additional mistakes and problems, including threats from the senior manager in the room to Leonid. He wanted the work done already. He forced him to rush. So together, Leonid's lack of knowledge and his supervisor's haste led not to mistakes, not to missing the way, but to devastation unlike anything we'd known before. Now, you and I, we're not nuclear physicists. Or I don't know, one of you might be a nuclear physicist. I certainly am not. We may not be on the brink of a nuclear disaster if you and I are hasty to move forward with enthusiasm, but no knowledge. However, there are still costs to the ways that we live. Costs to our own well-being, to our families, friends, co-workers, community. So let's spend the remainder of our time talking about how we can heed the wisdom of this proverb. Because if enthusiasm without knowledge is no good and haste makes mistakes, then we want to be people who have enthusiasm with knowledge, which will mean slowing down enough to learn what we need to know so we don't make egregious errors. We will always make some mistakes. We're human. But we can mitigate against both the number of them and their severity by acquiring knowledge. Knowledge becomes the guardrails that give our enthusiasm a productive path forward. So how do we get it? Well, Proverbs has some things to say about that, namely that we go to God for knowledge. Because as we looked at earlier, at the beginning of the book of Proverbs, it says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Well, the beginning is usually a pretty good place to start, and that's the place where we fear the Lord. This does not mean we have to be terrified of God to get knowledge. In this case, fear is more like respect. Having respect for who God is, how powerful he is, what he has done, what he's capable of doing, that is the starting place for figuring out everything else. Who you are, what God wants for you, what he expects from you. As you understand more and more of who God is and who he's created you to be, you understand how he wants you to use the passion and enthusiasm within you to do what he's created you to do. You go to God for knowledge, but you will have to slow down long enough to get it. You have to make time for God. God himself says, be still and know that I am God. The be still part of that line and the know that I am God part, they go together. There's not two separate instructions from God. Number one, be still. Number two, know that I am God. No, the being still is so that we can know God. You know, even though hurrying and rushing may be worse in our culture than ever before in human history, we are not the first people to be distracted in big ways. Psalm 46 is where this be still and know that I am God verse comes from. And in other parts of Psalm 46, it talks about nations being in uproar, kingdoms falling, war being around them, earthquakes happening around them. It is in the middle of all of that chaos that God says, be still and know that I am God. And it's in the middle of all of your hurried and harried chaos that God says the same. Slow down. Get still so that you can get to know God, because that's where knowledge begins. We're not so good, though, at slowing down to get our information these days. For a long time now, information has gotten to us as quickly as Google could find it. Now, AI is changing the game for some of you, and you're getting the info you're looking for even faster. I'm not here to talk about AI today, just to say, if we're going to go to God for knowledge, then we will have to slow down and be still to get it. God isn't going to respond to us as quickly as your favorite AI tool or Google. He's God. He gets to share knowledge with us when he wants and how he wants. We don't control that part. All that we do control is our part. We make time, and we are intentional to go to God in prayer and to read the Bible. When we do that consistently, God will reveal knowledge to us. Another proverb says, "For the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding." We hear from God's mouth when we pray and read the Bible. And going to God in prayer does not have to be weird. Just get still someplace where you can focus your thoughts on him. If you're a person, if you can't focus when you're still, some people are like that, that's fine. Go for a walk if that helps quiet your mind. Tell God what's on your mind, ask your questions, and listen for his knowledge. And read the Bible. We have free Bibles in the atriums of our physical campuses. Pick one up. Inside is a bookmark with guidance for you to get started. But right now, while we're talking about Proverbs, you could read one chapter of Proverbs a day. That would be a great way to go to God for knowledge. But no matter how you do it, you will have to slow down. Slow down your pace. Slow down your body, your mind. It's the opposite of how most of us are living, rushing from one meeting to another, one role to another, one responsibility to another. No time to process or think or just be, not with ourselves or with our God. Even those of us who enjoy a little hustle and bustle, we know we can't stay there forever, don't we? We know that our haste is causing us to make mistakes, and we can do better. We can be better. That's what God wants for us. He put enthusiasm and passion and drive within us for a reason. He has plans for us to accomplish in the world, so let's do the work. Set up the guardrails of knowledge so we can channel that enthusiasm for maximum impact. And before the service ends and you head out of here to do all the things, we want to give you some time. Take a breath. Listen to this song and let it be your prayer.
I wanna be present. I wanna be focused. I wanna give you all of my attention, all of my affection. I wanna be hungry. I wanna be desperate. And may my heart be set on fire. Yahweh, my desire. I don't wanna move so fast. May you be my first priority. And I don't wanna put you last. I just wanna give you all of me. Slow me down. Oh God, would you? I don't wanna miss your presence. Oh Jesus, slow me down now, right here, right now. Slow me down, slow me down. I wanna be reckless, all things abandoned. be chasing down your presence, sending praises up to heaven. I don't want to move so fast. May you be my first priority, and I don't want to put you last. I just want to give you all of me. So God, I don't want to miss your presence, Jesus. Slow me down right here, right now, oh God. Would you take my hand and bring me back to the path, oh God? Just slow me down, slow me down, oh. Slow me down, slow me down. Take my eyes off what's around. Your spirit's moving here and now, and I don't want to miss your presence. Not in a rush, I'd rather wait. Unite my heart to bring you praise. Tomorrow's calling, but today I don't want to miss your presence. Slow me down, take my eyes off. Your spirit's moving, oh God. I don't want to miss your presence. I'm not in a rush, no, 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 no. Oh God, I need you right now, right here, oh God. I don't want to miss your presence. I don't want to miss your presence. Oh God, oh, slow me. I need you right now. Oh God, would you? I know that I often go ahead of you, but today, right here, right now, would you take my hand, Jesus, and help me on this path, oh God? Would you slow me down, slow me down, slow me down.
May that be your prayer. Slow me down. Just want to feel your presence. So often we miss the movement in the voice of God because we're so busy doing anything but listening for it, anything but watching for it. And that's not judgment to you or judgment to myself. That's just how our world seems to work. But God invites us to something better, something countercultural, slowing down. Because God's timeline is way different than ours, but His is better. So be encouraged today that even though your life is busy, you have 100 things to do, and right now you can't even imagine slowing down, the truth is you can. Take a moment this week to slow down. Ask God for help doing it, and ask us for help walking with you. Reach out to me, ask for prayer right here online. Either way, we want to help. Thank you for taking the time to be here today. We'll see you again next week.